Greetings, Cyber fam. That's right. It's Irate Prostate. It's Sunday, and you know what? You're in for a treat because to me, ice cream is a treat, and talking to people is a treat. Well, this is the 100th treat, and we're getting quite corpulent and awesomeness over here. I just want to say hi to everybody real quick. Ron Walters, Ismail, greetings. Vanilla Bear, hello, darling. my little girl, my daughter. Bunny, I want to welcome everybody to today's show. I met this guy a while back, and he does a show, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And I've been a guest on his show a couple of times, and I really like the dude's vibe. And he's here, and we're at interview number 100. It seems like 10,000 some days, and it seems like 12 on others. It's amazing how fun this is. And without any further ado, I want you all to meet, if you haven't already before, the one and only Jackgunski.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad. I've never been interviewed before, so I got a little bit nervous. But then I realized that this is supposed to be a chill stream, so I'm like, it's like being really nervous, but also kind of trying to lay back. It's a strange feeling. Sweet.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the idea is that this is more of a laid back conversation. I've got questions, that I like to ask everybody. And some of them are consistent, and some of them I modify or change. But everybody's unique because of the answers, and that's what I love about this thing. So, all right, chat. If you've got any questions for Jack, all right, we'll do them at the end of the show. If you've done this before, if you haven't, we kind of got a little structure, not a lot, not too much. I'm not that anal. So if you have something you want to, you think of, you want to jot it down, and save it for the end of the show, and then we'll wrap after we do your questions. Okay. We always start at YouTube, and the questions will finally end up at YouTube. It's kind of like we go full circle, like I like to call it, full circle, right? So I hope everybody can hear everything. My fucking gauges over here aren't telling me like the volume, but I hope I take it everybody can hear it. K Shoal, hey, welcome. We're gonna blue you over, okay? I'm gonna give you. All right, don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up. All right, it's a wrench. I run a wrench no state here. I figure, and if somebody abuses it, then they lose it. So, and then some people just prefer not to have the wrench. It's there are wrenchless things, wrenchless lives matter, and I'm gonna stress that today.
See, the thing about me is that I give wrenches to all any guests who have been on my show and have something to shill. But if you just show up on my show and already have everything, I view it as I give it out on a need to basis. But there is no real special thing about it in my eyes.
Yeah, and I do want to point out to everybody in the corner just beneath what is my avatar's chin. It says CHADZ, and that is the Capitol Hill Autonomous Discord Zone. My server now. I am the warlord, the one and only warlord over the Discord server. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a Discord link in there. So if I'm feeling really frisky, maybe we'll do some live interviews with some guests, or not. I don't know. It's all up to me and Jack. So, are you ready to roll, brother?
I'm ready.
Okay, well, good deal. All right, so, like I said, we started at YouTube. How long had you been around YouTube, and what was the main reason you decided to, saddle up and do your own show, do your own thing?
Well, I started out on YouTube, as in I got an account back in my junior year of high school. That would have been something like 2009, 2010, that area. Mm-hmm. And the reason I got it was because I was going through a really difficult class at the time, and the way I would get through that class was when I was doing these very, very long homework assignments, which I had never done anything that long before. I would listen to music, and so, kind of boring on that front. But I decided to get into I decided to get into the game, so to speak, after a little while of listening to Ranting Monkey's show. He'd been doing Lords of the Night for a considerable amount of time. Then I'd done videos before that, and if you actually go back to the beginning of my videos list, you'll see that I started out making Minecraft videos.
Nice.
So you'll go back all the way. You'll see that there are some videos about mazes, and it was mostly for posterity's sake because I would build mazes in Minecraft, and I was really good at it. So it's something that I'm still a little bit proud of to this day. I was able to make a maze without walls, and to me that was crazy. But the other thing I did, the most popular, and it's actually the most popular video on my channel to this date, is I made a parody of the Get Smart opening in Minecraft.
Oh, dude! Oh, Bubba, I would love to see that. Will you send me a link to that when we're done? Because I love shit like
sure.
that.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
And because the Minecraft has pistons in it and everything like that, it has the opening and closing doors, and it was brilliant at the time. Yeah,
that's nice, man. So, what about what you're doing now? Talk a little bit about that. How did you get into it? Go ahead.
Well, there are two things that I do now, although one of them I haven't done for a little while. The first thing that I really started doing in large amounts, if you go to my channel, you'll see there are hundreds of videos like this, is just poetry readings. And so what I decided to do is I would go to the biggest name poets I could think of and just read through their catalog. I'd read one of their poems, upload a video, that's it. No frills, no nothing. Mainly, I figure it might serve an educational purpose.
Right.
I kind of want it to be like, if you look up a word online, you want to know the pronunciation of it, and you look up this word pronunciation, and they would come up with something like Emma says, and it would be a robot reading the word prestidigitation or something like that. I wanted the poems to kind of be like that, where you could just look it up and find it immediately. The thing that I'm doing, the thing that everyone here probably knows me for, or anyone who knows me in here knows me for, is the Quippers United stream, which I started doing for the purpose of trying to learn to get along with people. It's not really about subscribers for me. It's more about trying to learn to interact with people and try and get more of a buddy-buddy relationship with people, because I have never been good at the buddy-buddy thing. My entire life, I've always been kind of standoffish and kind of a recluse of sorts. Which is why, to this day, people don't really know that much about me, because, well, I'll only tell you stuff about me if you ask.
Right.
And nobody really ever asks.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I started doing this show, too, is like, because of guys like you, people want to know more about, I think, the people that they're interacting with who have content out here. This is really fun to do. It's fun to do your show too, because after a while, it's like at first I'm going, God damn, I'll never get this shit right, and then part of me just started realizing, well, that's kind of not the point. Even though I have gotten most of the games on there, I'm still horrible at it. So, but go ahead.
You are right, though. That's not the point of the show. The point of the show is to have fun. If you're having fun, then you're doing it right. To me, it's all about creating the proper environment. I feel that the job of a host is kind of a sacred thing. The job of a host is not to enjoy the party. The job is to create an environment for people to have fun.
Absolutely.
And so I feel that, and I have like a whole kind of mentality about what it is to be a host. And I feel that it's important that you make your guests as comfortable as possible, and you don't ask them to try and entertain the audience. Because the thing is that if you're trying too hard to entertain people, then people can sense that, and it seems contrived, it seems wrong, and so they're not able to have as much fun. But if you're just having fun, you're laughing about, it doesn't matter if everything's going wrong at once. If you're having fun, the audience senses that. They sense you're having fun, and then they have fun too.
Right. It was like I don't want to get into what happened Friday night, but if you were watching Friday night, you know that I got booted off of YouTube during the middle of the Creem Street. That was fun. I was like, what the fuck? But it was the AI. It was the same thing kind of that happened to Scry. All right. So what? All right. So what are the name Jackgunski, and the guy that we hear on on Quippers, and and whenever you're doing guest spot, how much of Jackgunski is you? Where did the name come from? Tell us a little bit about that.
The name I originally came up with a comic, and if you were to do a Google search of my name, you'd find the comic almost instantly. Because I actually got my internet career. I started on YouTube a long time ago, but also maybe even before that, I started out on, of all places, DeviantArt. Which most people know for bad My Little Pony fan art and Sonic fan art, Sonic Mpreg. But I got my start out there, and I started uploading the comic, and it originally started out as a stick figure comic when I was in 6th grade, and I made the name up, and it was just a totally random name at the time. And it's a terrible name. I mean, come on, nobody has that name, or nobody has anything resembling that name. But it kind of stuck with me, and so I just kind of kept it, and that's what I originally named my YouTube channel account afterwards. And so it's the name of the main character of my comic book, and it just kind of stuck. That's I wish there was a better explanation, but it's kind of actually almost random in nature.
Well, so would you say that the character in the comic book is a fair representation of you?
I mean, to a certain extent, I think that everybody inserts a little bit of their personality into all their characters. Sure. I think that, I don't know, it's difficult to say. It's difficult to get that, to stand back and have that perspective. I would say a little bit comes from me, and a little bit comes from trying to make a defined character. So, kind of, the character in that book has like kind of a fly on the wall kind of perspective on the world, and I guess that is mostly me, is the fly on the wall watching things go by.
Right.
That's kind of how I felt my entire life.
Are you still working on something like that? Or are you?
I haven't done that comic for years and years and years. At least a few years, I think, and I don't really have any intention of going back to it at this point. It is in that manner a little bit of a failure, but I have another comic that I work on. I'm not going to share it here though, because it's a little bit risque. I'll admit that much.
All right.
My general rule when it comes to that sort of thing is I don't want to depict anything in that particular comic. I am not going to depict anything graphic. However, whatever you want to say goes. To me, it's all about, I have a big thing about free speech. I believe you should be able to say anything, and I mean anything at all. Nothing is off. Even the illegal stuff, I believe morally you should be allowed to say it. And there is stuff that is in America illegal to say.
Yeah.
But I think you should be able to say even that stuff. It's kind of funny. There used to be this sketch comedy show called The Whitest Kids You Know, and the main actor from it, Trevor Moore, who's actually doing stuff now during quarantine, by the way. He made a show where he reiterates that one of the specific sentences that you are not allowed to say regarding the president. He bases an entire sketch around that. And personally, I always thought that was probably one of the greatest sketches they ever did, because it kind of fits in directly with my philosophy on the importance of speech.
Right.
And really, if I'm talking about politics, I would say that this is the concept of free speech, the concept of expanding personal liberties is the real reason that I ever took an interest in politics in the first place. My main goal out of politics is to say, as long as I'm not interrupting your shit, stay out of mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, man. That's a typical, like, libertarian-esque kind of thing,
yeah.
Right? You know?
Exactly.
Right.
My freedom extends exactly as far as your freedom extends.
Yeah, all right, so here's my political slogan is none ya. Right? You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, and I don't know when the fuck this shit changed, but it was like it was rude to ask somebody who they were going to vote for. You know, It was a very personal thing. You know, there were rules. When you went to bars, you didn't talk about politics, football, and there's something else, but religion, right?
Yeah.
You know, just or else, you know, it's going to end up somebody getting their ass kicked. You know, one way or the other.
In the words of Linus, 3 things you can't talk about: religion, politics, and the Great Pumpkin.
And the Great Pumpkin. That's a classic too. And I've got a question about something about that. All right. So, is there a food from your childhood that you hated, but as an adult you actually like it now?
Blue cheese.
Nice.
I love blue cheese.
It's good.
Get like a. There are burger joints. A lot of burger joints have like a blue cheeseburger now, and I love that. Going to like Red Robin and getting the blue burger. I think they call it the black and blue burger at Red Robin. Oh, it's just wonderful.
That sounds good, man. So it's Angus,
Yeah, but when you're a little kid, you know, you try boozy. It's bitter. It's all moldy.
It's weird looking, man. You know, I feel you. And a lot of times with what I've noticed with people that are picky about stuff, sometimes it is aesthetics, like visual or even textural type stuff, right? Not necessarily flavor. So, all right. So, who would you say is the most influential person to you as a child?
Probably Mr. Rogers.
Oh yeah. Tell me about that, man.
Yeah. Well, I think that I learned to appreciate him more as I grew up. But the first thing he did for me is that occasionally on the show they would have little tiny bits where they would go to a factory and they would show you how stuff is made. And that really played into my sense of mechanical stuff, mechanical related things. And that's I think that is probably one of the big reasons that I ended up looking into an engineering related field. So that little segment alone probably had a massive influence on my formative years. Just the ability to see all these little contraptions working together and in perfect harmony, doing things perfectly all the time. And I just thought that was incredible. But as I grow up, I also learned to appreciate the man, Mr. Rogers, who was a fascinating human being. Because usually, are you familiar with the man Patton Oswalt, the idiot on Twitter?
Yeah.
The sad part is, before Donald Trump became president, he's actually a very smart man, and I've read one of his books, and he makes this really fascinating assertion that the most clean comedians out there, the cleanest comedians, often had the biggest skeletons in their closet. And this is what he said before Bill Cosby became a thing.
Right.
He said that, and it always rings true even to this day. The cleanest comedians have the dirtiest, and even just in general, the cleanest people have the biggest skeletons in their closet. And that was the only exception I can think of to that rule to this day is Mr. Rogers. The man had nothing to hide. He had no skeletons. He was a nice man inside and out, and that's it.
And what's wrong with trying to be a better person, right?
Yeah. And you learn all these little tiny facts about him. Apparently, there was one time where he was taking a limo or something like that, and the driver said that he had like a child who was a huge fan of his, and so they actually stopped by his house, and Mr. Roger played jazz piano for them.
Wow.
Because he was I
didn't know that. I heard there's a movie out, right? And I haven't caught it yet.
I won't watch it. I cannot accept Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers.
Man, it's kind of weird sounding, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks wrong and it feels wrong because Tom Hanks is not the same person. And I think that the only person who could give Mr. Rogers justice is someone who is as good a human being as Mr. Rogers. And I just don't know anyone like that. Even if it was a black woman, if they were as good a person as Mr. Rogers, then I will take them playing Mr. Rogers. But they have to be as good as him.
All right. So, as you as a kid, what were you like as a kid?
I was, basically I was kind of a weird, standout kind of human being. I was that kid. I think that's the best way to describe me. I stuck out in the crowd very much, but I also kind of kept to myself a lot. So in the summer months after school, I would basically disappear off the face of the planet because I didn't really hang out with other people. Hanging out wasn't really my speed. I would go and play on the computer. There was one summer where my entire family, with the exception of my father, so that my entire family got addicted to the computer game Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh wow!
And so we had the computer set up, and we would take shifts. We would literally take shifts playing that game, and that's how we spent basically the entire summer.
That's crazy, man. That's kind of cool. I like that, man.
Yeah.
All right. What about? All right. So you kind of alluded to holiday. Is there a special holiday or time of the year? Something that puts you in a good mood, that fills you with that, like the spirit of Christmas, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The big holiday around my house is Christmas. I'm one of those people who is supposed to be having the time of their life, and they get a little bit depressed because of it. Because there are a lot of people like that, and so what happens is there was once a time in my life where it'd be during Christmas, and I would just all of a sudden get really depressed. And I know I'm supposed to be having a great time, and I know that everything around me is perfect, but for some reason it just makes me like very, very sad. And fortunately, I used to have a more depressive personality. I've since taken measures to be a lot happier. And so now I'm able to enjoy Christmas a lot more. And part of the reason I'm able to enjoy Christmas is because I avoid Christmas music, which I find saturates everything.
Yeah, and it's right after Halloween you start hearing it, man. It's like, what the fuck?
Jesus Christ.
in stores and stuff.
It is way too much. Christmas gets earlier every year. There is going to be a point, and the webcomic XKCD actually made this assertion that there's going to be a point where we're going to start listening to the next year's Christmas music before this year's Christmas happens.
We need a little Christmas right this very minute. Okay, I saw it.
Yeah.
I'll stop. All right. So, what about specials? Is there a Christmas special or movie that you like?
There are every major holiday, with the exception of Easter, has their respective specials. For Halloween, it's Charlie Brown Halloween special. For Thanksgiving, it's the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special, in which Franklin is racially segregated. And I always found that to be funny because I was the first person to point that out in my family, and they were like, "Holy crap! He's got a long side of the table and he's sitting by himself." No, and during Christmas, there's a lot of stuff though. There's the Charlie Brown Christmas special, obviously. Got a big Charlie Brown family, I guess. Let's see. There's my mom likes the Little Drummer Boy. There's Santa Claus is Coming to Town. There's Rudolph. We don't really watch Shiny New Year because,
And Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Is that the one where he says one foot in front of the other song?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great one. I always loved the Rankin Bass.
Yeah. Rankin Bass put a lot of weird crap out there.
Yeah, dude.
They got a lot of weird specials.
Yeah, there's some, there's conspiracy theories about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the song. I'll get it. I might do a show just about that kind of shit later, because it's interesting, isn't it? All right, so if you could go back in time and talk to little Jack at the age of 8, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell him?
Don't rely on other people. Go and do it yourself. My entire school life, all the time I spent in school, I never really learned how to do anything. I just learned facts. And that's all I ever really learned. It took me going all the way through college to learn to start actually doing stuff on my own, to learn to be a responsible human being. And I feel that most people are missing that in their lives. And, the sad part is that you have, like, the only part where you learn to do anything in school is usually classes where people think that it's a joke, like home ec. Who gives a crap about home ec? Are you kidding me? Or shop class. Shop class doesn't even mean anything. Used to be like, oh, I made this little tiny figure out of wood. I whittled or something. Now, does it have something to do with computers? I don't know. It's utterly pointless, and the people there. The thing is that schools are too afraid to get a little dirty. They're too afraid to actually have you do any hard labor or anything like that. And as a result, you go all the way through college and you never learn to do something simple like fixing a little something that happens in your home. Like if you have a hole in the wall, how do you patch a hole in the wall? How do you fix the trim around a door frame? I actually did that yesterday. I installed a piece of trim around a door frame. Yeah. How do you use these things? How do you use a table saw? What are the safety tips around a table saw? You don't learn these things anymore. And so I had to go out and I had to figure out how to do it myself. And then I had to go out and learn to buy, tools online and stuff like that. And I think that the ability to fix your own life up is one of the most important things missing in society today.
And I got a feeling that in a couple of years that, shop schools and classes like that will be a lot more of a thing, I think. Especially as academia continues to reveal itself as being fucking useless. All right, so tell me what you were like in middle school. What did that look like for you?
Well, I was I've been an odd duck my entire life, and I think that was probably most pronounced in middle school, is when I started dealing, because middle school, the what do you call it, the hormones kick in middle school, and so all the people around me were just like really into my space, and and I just kind of wanted to be left alone most of the time, and people just zoned in on that fact and just got into my space, and it kind of freaked me out. And so I got in a lot more fights. I got in a lot of fights in elementary school, but I got in a lot more fights, or at least not physical fights, but like arguments and things like that. I got in a lot more of those in middle school. I think that as I got older, I became less physical, and I've gotten to a point where I'm just not physical at all. I can't hurt people. I don't have that capacity to hurt people. It's not that I'm afraid of them. It's just that I just don't have that mentality. I don't have the killer instinct.
Were you raised in a? It sounds like you've got an ethical, subtext going on in your life. Is there some kind of religious upbringing there? Or?
Not particularly. I mean, I did have something resembling a religious upbringing, insofar that my family, when I was younger, went to church and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that my personality, a lot of it comes from a desire for order and a desire not to screw things up. And I think that fighting just messes with things. I think that nothing good comes from fighting. Not just from like an ethical standpoint, but from a practical standpoint. Because if you get in a fight with someone, then you have to deal with the consequences of having fought someone. And in a modern society, it just doesn't make sense to do it.
So, all right. So you get out of middle school. So what was high school like?
High school was a lot more difficult, but it was kind of nice because you had a little bit more freedom. But to the extent that high school brings it, it's still a prison. School is prison. They talk about the school to prison pipeline. No, it's all prison. It was always prison for people who did nothing wrong. But it was more a laid back version of middle school, I would say. A lot less argumentation, but it was a lot more stressful. It had a lot more stresses in regards to grades. Because everything got a lot tougher all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And you got to choose the tougher classes, and you deliberately chose the tougher classes because that's how you got into college. And so it was sort of like pre-college in that manner, which I don't think it should be. I think that we are making a tremendous mistake as a society, just having college be this thing that everybody does. I think that's silly.
So it sounds like to me you didn't do a lot of crazy stuff like when you were a little kid or high school. No. What about dating girls? What was that like for you?
Disastrous.
Go into it, man.
Well, the first person I ever dated was there was technically I'll say this much about it. First person I ever dated broke up with me after the semi-prom. The second person I ever dated broke up with me during prom. So it's not really a I don't have the same mentality. You know how I was talking earlier about doing the show to learn to get along with people better?
Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, the problem that led to that solution extended to my relationship life. I never had a great capacity for connecting romantically with a woman. I never really had that capacity. I've always been very withdrawn. I've always been very odd. I've always been not antisocial, because antisocial has a lot of very negative personality traits attached to it, but I've always been very withdrawn from society in general, I would say.
Right.
And and that kind of leads me to being withdrawn when talking to other people, so that I'm not able to connect with them. But I think that I have since learned to be better about that. And my main thing is that whenever I have a breakup in a relationship, my main point is that I learn something from it. No matter how painful it is, I have to go in there, I have to see what it is that I did wrong. And usually it's a pretty massive mistake that I made, and I have to learn from it. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, has been probably the most important thing about my relationships. Things like don't get into too much of a routine, because if you do, the other person's going to get bored. I personally can do the exact same thing every day if I want to do it. Mm-hmm. I can do the exact same thing. But other people are not like that, and I had to learn from that.
Well, yeah, something I figured out is my 20s was I was figuring out what I didn't want in a mate, right?
Yeah.
And then I met Uzi Q. You know, I've got an old saying: "There's always a fool for a fool." My grandmother used to say that. My Irish grandmother. and then what she means is there's somebody out there for everybody, I think. And you know, it's and it sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders about that kind of stuff. And you just, you know, put your nose to the grindstone. Trust me, when you least expect it is when it'll hit you upside the head. That's the way love be.
I certainly hope so.
It's been my experience, man. I'll put it to you that way. All right. So, what about the alcohol or
no alcohol, no drugs of any kind, ever.
No substances, no tobacco.
Nope, no tobacco. And I used to do caffeine, but I have since given up caffeine.
Oh wow! So, are you doing the LDS thing?
Wait. Oh, sorry. What's LDS?
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons.
No. No. Again, I'm not a religious person.
It was a joke.
Okay. Yeah, I'm agnostic. I can understand from the outside someone might think I was a very religious person, but the fact is that I think that all of these things have very practical value to them. Yeah. I think that I like to have control of my faculties, and I don't judge other people for wanting to do them. In fact, I think that there are some people who are a lot more fun when they're doing them. But I personally, it's just not for me. That's all there is to it.
Right, man. You know, it's like straight edge. That's right, dude. That was a big movement back in the punk days. Straight edgers. I don't know if you had ever heard of them.
Nope.
But they were a fun bunch of guys, man. They just didn't get fucked up, you know. And they didn't even date chicks. Some of them, I mean, they were like, they wanted to stay celibate until they got married. It was like they were everything but religious, you know.
It reminds me one of my favorite musicians, Frank Zappa. He was totally drug free.
Oh shit! Oh, are you a Zappa fan?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we got a whole show. You and I can do just about Zappa, especially the stuff, the Shake Your Booty, the Barking Pumpkin era, dude.
I unfortunately, the thing about Zappa that I found is that everyone knows a different section of his catalog because it's just so friggin' big.
He's brilliant, man. You know, I talked to him on the phone on a radio show one time, and I got to ask him 2 questions, and I came up with these really, like, heady, college-y kind of questions for him, man. You know, I asked him what he thought underground music, and he said, unfortunately, you know, the future of underground music's going further underground. He was right. And then I asked him about Webern and Stravinsky and his contrast. as to their approaches, and he went into a long explanation about that shit. But I was off the phone by then. And I was listening to it on the radio. So go ahead.
I saw an interview with him where he's talking. I think it was this young girl from the Rolling Stone, and he was just laying into her because I felt so sorry for this girl because she was just trying to do the interview. Like, I'm just here to do the interview, and he's kind of giving his sort of contradictory answers. Do you know what I mean? Where he's sidestepping the question in a way, or just completely giving a reversal of what she says. Like he talked about what was it art rock or something like that? Progressive rock.
They call progressive now.
Yeah, progressive rock. And she's like, and he just says, I don't think that those bands are progressive. and she says, oh well, can I give you a list of some bands? I want you to tell me which ones you think are progressive. And she gives off this whole list, and most of his answers are no, they're not progressive.
No.
And some of their music is progressive.
See, man, it's like he was based before based was cool, right? I mean, the dude is way ahead of his time on telling people to go fuck themselves and not take themselves so seriously. I think You Are What You is a genius album because of all the statements in it.
Did you ever see his interview on Crossfire?
Yeah, man. With Pat Buchanan and shit. That was that was classic. Yeah,
that was fucking brilliant. I love that. It was great.
Did you see him testify before Congress and stuff? All those videos. You should check it out.
I didn't. I gotta watch that one because I know he did testify and he dressed up in the suit and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I only know about it though because I did watch a video about Twisted Sister testifying, and where they came in dressed in like full garb.
Right, but Zappa was. I mean, he was very flippant in his in his address to. It was great. The dude, there's. I don't know. You have people that artistically influence you on a life level, and he's like one. I read his biography and shit. I love that dude, man. And I will talk to you later about. There's a show I'm going to be starting now that I've done 100 of these interviews, and it's going to have like you and I having an hour-long discussion about Zappa's music and even playing excerpts up from it and talking about it, right?
Nice.
So, and I'll do art with people that prefer art to music, and I don't know about theater or film. I'm still iffy about that. But anyway.
I like all three of those things. I could talk for hours about all three of them.
See, man, and that's kind of the whole point, is going to this next level. Because I know how everybody is politically, right? And I can get into some discussions about that kind of stuff, but I'd rather, man, I'm not going to convince anybody. Nobody's going to fucking change my mind. Right? Why waste time on useless discourse when we can actually interact and be nice to each other and civil?
Yeah, I think that is a very good mentality to have. I think that there are a few different ways that you can go about it, and I think that there are a few useful ways that you can go about it. I think that there are people who have the discussion, and they're not open to reason, but they're willing to discuss things to expose other people for their real opinions, and I think that that's in general a good thing. And I also think that there are people who they will discuss things for the purpose of stirring crap up, and I personally, I'm not huge on that. I know that Ranting Monkey, he likes to kind of start arguments with people. He likes that sort of thing. Satsu 2 Cents loves to start arguments with people. I'm not huge on starting arguments with people. It's just not. I don't think that it's helpful. I think that it causes the discourse to get more agitated. And while I don't have any problem with it morally, I think that it does not help the general effort. And like I've said many times before, I'm all about pragmatism. Mm-hmm. I believe that what we do. I said do. Haha. But I believe that what we do, everything we do, should have some sort of overall functionality to it, something to either elevate ourselves or elevate all of society.
Well, man, that's I think that's a lofty but believable and attainable aspiration. You know, I appreciate you getting more philosophical with your answers, because it's cool. It's really cool to see how people tick. And you're willing to go there and be candid on this stuff. It's great. So, all right, so did you ever catch like Zappa on Zappa or any of those? Because you were probably born after he died, right? If I'm guessing correctly.
I don't remember what year, but it was in the early 90s, wasn't it?
And, I think it was 92. Yeah.
In that case, it would have happened the very year I was born.
Okay. Oh, well, all right. Well, there you go. So
I can also tell you my pet's first name and my mother's maiden name.
Well, we don't want to do that. We'll give away your passwords, man. We're not going to fish.
I can also identify fire hydrants in photographs.
Nice. All right. So, have you ever been to any live concerts, any shows?
Let's see. The first live concert I think I went to there was a Pink Floyd cover band called Aussie Floyd or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they basically tried to mimic the whole Pink Floyd experience. They had a big blow-up pig in there, and they had some lasers. Not a whole ton, and the show is great. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, so that was a lot of fun. Got a shirt from that. My favorite band of all time is Steely Dan, and I've been to 2 of their concerts before. I can never remember. Roger Waters passed away. I managed to see them twice.
Roger Waters still alive.
What?
It was Rick Wright that died.
Are you sure? Hold on.
Roger Waters is uploading horse shit on YouTube right now.
Fuck, you're right.
From his COVID thing. It's cool, man. Hey, people.
For some reason, I always forget the name of the second guy from Steely Dan. I know Donald Fagen.
Oh, you mean Walter Becker? Yeah.
Walter Becker. Yes.
Yeah.
Before he died, I saw Steely Dan twice.
Oh, dude, man.
I knew there was a Walter in there.
Yeah, Walter Becker is a fantastic musician. He and I just forgot the other guy's name.
Donald Fagen?
Fagen, yes. Becker and Fagen were a fantastic team. See, you get me on music. Oh, so what about a guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Everybody knows mine is Poppy. That Poppy.
I don't know who you're referring to.
It's a thing on the interwebs here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because of YT, I got turned on to this.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning Poppy before, but I've never. Is that like a Japanese pop star or something?
Yeah, It's kind of like it started out as like a J-pop kind of thing that she was doing, but she was part of this art project with this dude named Titanic Sinclair. So they were doing all these weird videos where you didn't know if she was a robot or she's supposed to be a robot or she's being controlled by other people. And so there was that kind of shit going on with the music at the same time. And now she's doing this full like baby metal kind of thing where it's like, hardcore, and then it goes into like 60s psychedelic pop music. It's really weird. It's kind of fun. So yeah, I dig it.
Sorry.
Go for it.
Honestly, though, I don't think that anyone should feel ashamed of anything they enjoy. There's music I like, music I don't like. I don't think that you should feel ashamed of it. Even if you like ABBA, I don't think you should feel ashamed of it. Yeah, right. Even though a lot of people do.
I've got a saying that everybody's queer for something. And, it's like I like to build models and stuff like that, and it's this niche model kits that came out in the 80s of this Japanese thing it's just very esoteric, right? It's not even self-referential. Not a lot of people know about it, but it's my thing, right? And I used to be real judgmental of people, and then I saw this dude that knew everything about coconuts and coconut trees, man. And I mean, he knew this shit like it was like a dictionary. He could tell you everything about it, diseases, all this stuff. And I'm like, and I realized that everybody has got something that they love that much, that they'll immerse themselves in it. And it's a good thing, I think. I think that helps us become more rounded, more, I don't know how to say it, more diverse intellectually in a good way, right? The good kind of.
Ryan Walters is asking, and I'm curious too, the thing you like building, is it Gundam models?
It's a type of Gundam known as Maquet or Maschinen Krieger. Which is by Ko Yokoyama, KOW, Kosan. Yokoyama-san is he's the sensei behind the whole thing, and it was it appeared in a magazine, and then there was this legal shit, and I think Paramount picked up an option to do it, so it might get cool at some point.
So, Irate, does this mean you're a weak?
To a snobbish degree, I guess. I do like A and K and J horror. I'm a huge Asian horror fan, and I do love that stuff. And there's some anime that I think is really good and high art, and there's some that I do not get. Right.
Yes.
And so, but like I said, everybody's queer for something. So,
I'm a huge anime geek. I love all anime. Actually, there are some anime that I'm not a big fan of. Funny enough, we're talking about Gundam. I'm not a big fan of giant robot, the mecha genre, because I don't know, maybe it's like claustrophobia or something, but just continuous shots of people inside tiny little cabins kind of just, it either makes me uncomfortable or just bores me to tears. I don't know. It's something about that.
I love it.
I think that.
Go ahead.
I think that the robots certainly look cool, though. Yeah. It's just that the plot itself is just kind of
Yeah, the stuff in the Maquet, what makes it so different is all like the dude took all these model kits. I mean, like thousands of model kits, and started putting together these suits of armor, for these little 20th scale figures, right? And Dante, do you know of who I'm talking about? And it's got this weird kind of like a World War II aesthetic to it, which is really cool. So it's I guess it's the closest thing to steampunk I'm going to get. And I was a huge Mech Warrior fan too. I love that game. Mech Warrior 3 was fucking the shit.
Dante is actually kind of my my weeb buddy in crime, partner in crime, and we watched this show called It was from the 1970s. It was called Future Boy Conan, and it was actually the only TV show ever done by Miyazaki, the guy that everybody knows for like Spirited Away and Ponyo and Howl's Moving Castle, all that stuff. But he did one TV show. It was called Future Boy Conan, and it actually features
a live action or animated?
Anime.
Okay.
And it features a post-apocalyptic world wherein there are all these mechanized. There used to be all these machines that were basically running the place. Like the whole thing starts off from like a space shuttle, and there are like huge scenes of like tanks that have since eroded away for the past 100 years, and it's got all that sort of post-apocalyptic imagery, plus it's got kind of a World War II-ish vibe to it.
Oh wow.
Because the whole thing kind of, it takes place in an apocalypse wherein, I mean, it doesn't say it directly, but it basically is a result of World War II.
Right.
And so it's really fascinating to see it depicted like that, because it's a children's show. But the thing about it is, like most Miyazaki things, it's also for adults in a lot of different ways.
Right.
It's also it's very mature, so it speaks to kids and adults, which is what I like about it so much. I think it's it's really what he did best, Miyazaki in specific. But if you like that sort of thing, I would definitely recommend at least giving it a try, because it was made back in the 1970s. So, you know, when
I'm big into like Cowboy Bebop. I'm down with all that. Real aesthetic where they actually did really good sales instead of farming it out to like Vietnam or fucking some other Malaysia or somewhere like that. To crank out the shadow work, some of that stuff is great. I appreciate the effort. It's like the guy that did Uzumaki, the comic, the manga.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I do not know that dude's name, but that dude is his art is incredible. Yokoyama's art is good too. He drew some stuff. I think he did a comic. I'm not sure, but dude, we're getting way into weebs on it, and it is, to be honest. It's like, so what is your favorite anime? Hands down.
See. It's got to be Darker Than Black. It's a much newer one. It was made, I think, in the early 2010s. And it features a world wherein, for some reason, not for some reason, it's pretty obvious why, but Japan anime likes to depict sort of like atomic bomb related events. And in this case, the atomic bomb related event is an asteroid hitting the Earth and creating zones wherein all this crazy stuff happens. And it also creates basically a new race of humans who each have a power that requires some sort of strange payment in return for it. And they're referred to as contractors. And so there are people. The show starts out by depicting one guy who's able to fly for a little while, and then when he gets down, he needs to pay his contract, and that is breaking his own fingers. And so it immediately shows him breaking his own fingers. Jeez. He doesn't even really understand why he's doing it, but it's kind of messed up. But then there are other people. There's one guy who's able to swap objects out with one another, so he can swap with another object somewhere else. But in return, he has to take a whole bunch of tiny little stones and start arranging them in a grid.
That's interesting.
And as the show goes on, it sort of depicts more and more intricacies about how contractors work in comparison to other humans. And then you start to learn that in spite of these weird anomalies, they're not really that different. So it's really a strange show that kind of plays a lot with philosophical dynamics between two very different groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, it's just really cool because the main character, one person referred to him as Chinese Electric Batman.
Cool.
Yeah, and so he would fly into a scene and he would be able to kill people by like grabbing onto their head and just zapping them until they die. And then he'd do the Batman thing where something would pass by and he would disappear, that kind of thing.
So, who would you say is your favorite anime character of all time?
My favorite anime character?
Yeah.
Ooh, I have no idea. I've never really thought about it.
Yeah, see, I designed questions to challenge weebs. All right, so what about horror films? Are you into any horror movies?
I like horror movies that do something different. The two, I don't really get scared that easily, but I like things that have some sort of element of interest to them. The most interesting movie that I can think of off the top of my head was the Japanese horror movie Houseu.
Is that the old movie, The House?
I think it's just called House.
Right. It's like from the 80s?
No, it's from like the 60s.
Oh, yeah. No, this is the movie I'm talking about. Yeah, that's crazy. It's a great movie.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember I watched that movie, and then later on, PewDiePie actually did an entire show thing dedicated to just talking about it. And one of the things about it is that the director, when he was asked to create this movie, was basically he wanted to use the movie to describe how he felt after Hiroshima, because he lived in that area at the time, though he wasn't there when the bomb went off.
Right.
And so most of his childhood friends all died at once.
Right.
And so he was looking for a way to describe it to people. And when you watch the movie, you realize it's really kind of silly and absurd because that's how it felt to him.
Oh,
at the
wow.
time.
That's blowing my mind, man. That's heavy.
Yeah, the experience felt absurd to him, like it wasn't real.
Right. And the movie makes a lot of sense when you look at it, in that context. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Nifty.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What about another movie that you're into? Anything else?
In general, or are we still on horror?
Horror, dude.
The other one, curiously enough, also comes from Japan. Have you ever seen the movie Audition?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm a Miike freak. I forgot to say that. Yeah.
I don't want to ruin it for anyone in the audience who's never seen it, because this is kind of a little thing about the movie, is that you're not supposed to talk about it because it ruins it if you do. But I will say there are certain noises that happen in that movie that will hang around in your head forever. There are noises that happen in that movie that will stick with you long after you've finished watching it. And you'll think about it, and it will just eat it.
Yeah, he's right. He's not wrong at all. What else? Man, and buttress that with E.T. the Killer. And you'll get a great idea as to how fucking twisted Takashi Miike is.
I have heard of that one. I've never watched it.
Oh my god! Oh, dude, I can't even describe. Well, I mean, I could. I mean, it opens up with him masturbating, watching a criminal rape this woman.
Oof.
Yeah, and then it gets weird. I'm not kidding. It's like that one scene right there, is like the most normal shit you see in that whole movie. And the bad guy is great in it. He's kind of like a superhero, but he's there's kind of this one punch man, because it's like I don't think he's really got any kind of powers. He just likes to dress up and kick ass. So anyway, it's a good movie. It's fun and it's twisted, man. Everything that oh man, Visitor Q. Oh my God, that's a crazy movie. Everything he's done. Watch his catalog. His fucking Yakuza stuff is fantastic. He's the shit, dude. What about sci-fi movies?
Sci-fi movies?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that sci-fi is best depicted when it's got a little bit of a cheese factor to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love just having a little bit of cheese in sci-fi. One of my favorite, I don't know if this counts, but RoboCop.
Oh, yeah.
RoboCop, one of my all-time favorites. Yeah. When I was a little kid, I was apeshit about RoboCop. And to this day, it's just, if I ever see that actor, oh God, what's his name?
Peter Weller, man. Yeah.
Peter Weller, yeah. Whenever I see him, I'm like, holy crap, it's RoboCop.
Yeah.
And then it just happens at random sometimes. Like I'm just watching a season of Dexter, and all of a sudden he becomes RoboCop's character.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on Sons of Anarchy, man. It's like all these weird shows, like goddamn Peter Weller, and he's like 80 years old or some shit like that. I mean, he's getting up there in years, and he's directing and doing all kinds of stuff. He's a great actor. There's this movie, if you can find it, it's called what is the name of that movie? Oh shit. It's about this dude's wife goes away for the weekend, and he starts hearing rats in the walls, and he ends up tearing up the house trying to find the rats. And then when he finds the rats, it's not a good thing. It's great. It's a great movie. Of Unknown Origin. That's the name of that movie. And it's available out there because I've got it on my I've got a digital copy of it somewhere. In the ether, you know, there was this one very incredible moment for me where I was watching. It was an anthropological film, and Peter Weller starred because, as it turns out, I believe he's an anthropologist. Oh, I don't know about that, but it would not surprise me in the least, man. You know,
it feels totally random because this is like, where did this come from? Peter Weller's an anthropologist? What?
Well, the guy that did RoboCop also did a Total Recall, the Schwarzenegger one, and did Starship Troopers, and a bunch of other stuff. But those are his my three favorites of his.
Oh, absolutely. I've never actually seen Starship Troopers, even though I know I should. But Total Recall was going to be the other sci-fi movie I mentioned because I love Total Recall.
It's a great movie.
Oh my God. It's up there for my favorite Schwarzenegger movies. That and Commando, I would say.
Get in the chopper. Get to the chopper.
Let off some steam, Bennett. But
put that dick down now.
But yeah, that's a great one. Another one very popular, obviously, The Fifth Element is a very good sci-fi movie. Bruce Willis, while he still gave a shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got you. I was multitasking there for a second.
Gotcha.
All right. So, what about horror movie director? You got a favorite there?
Thing is, I don't really watch many horror movies, so
stick with Miike, man. I think that he needs to be I don't think he's been represented in this section of the show ever. So, that's a solid one. And Junji Ito. Yeah. Whoever's talking about Junji Ito is that Duck? Is not Duck Dog? It's is it Dante, your friend?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, welcome aboard, Dante. He knows about some stuff that I know about. This is it's really weird. All right. Continuing on with the questions, because this is about you, man. It's not about me, and I keep forgetting that today. And I apologize for that shit, y'all.
No. Don't worry about it. I like hearing about you too, because I don't know a ton about you. I watch the show, but I feel that it's good to have back and forth when you're in an interview.
Right. You see, I never knew you were into Zappa, man. I was like, yeah, man, that's
Oh yeah.
See, yeah, that's 10 points easy right there. On cool scale. So, Junji Ito is 7 points. So, all right. So we talked about anime. What about TV series? You got any favorite?
TV series. Let me think. Well, I grew up on a lot of sitcoms. I grew up on sitcoms, I would say. So when I was younger, it was The Simpsons, it was Seinfeld, and Frasier. However, my favorite one, the sitcom that I connect to most, I think, would be The Drew Carey Show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I have a very big, like, emotional connection to that show because I used to, after school, I would go home and my sister would be there and we would just watch The Drew Carey Show. It was on TBS. It was Yes Dear from 2 to 3, and we caught the second episode of Yes Dear, and then it was The Drew Carey Show from 3 to 4, and we would watch it every day. And I love that show to pieces. So, and unfortunately, they have yet to release it on DVD. Otherwise, I would most certainly own it. I think that the reason they don't have it on DVD is because they ran into copyright issues with the opening theme song, Cleveland Rock, which I wouldn't necessarily blame that band for wanting a little bit more money for the DVD sales because, let's face it, it's a banger. Man, that's so sad because there's so much good stuff that's been altered, and just straight up unavailable. The Logical song by Supertramp has been tied up for years in court, and that's that's my go-to Supertramp song, right? That and The Long Way Home are two excellent songs, but no, you can't. I can't play that before the show because I'll get struck because it's wrapped up. Breakfast in America is one of my all-time favorite albums. It's a good album, man. Hell yeah. Yeah. It's solid. It's like I was trying to tell somebody, like, there are certain albums where, like, every song on it is good. It may not be a fantastic, but the worst songs on the album are better than a lot of their better songs on other albums, right? It's like Soul Asylum. I played just before the show. The Cult, Sonic Temple is one of those albums, I think. Breakfast in America is another album like that. Where just everything, You Are What You Is, man. God. Well, I would say that as far as albums go, like whole albums that are really good, I would go for Breakfast in America. I would go for Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions. Oh, God, yes. I would go for Talking Heads' Remain in Light. Nice. And my favorite band, Steely Dan, I would go with Asia. Nice. Is probably their best album. I'm down with Royal Scam because I got a case of dynamite. And I want to hold out here all night. The first time I ever went to the Steely Dan concert, it was in Boston, and it was playing at, if you're familiar with the area at all, it was playing at the Wang Center. And right next door to it is a German food place called, it's actually gone now, but it was called Jacob Wirth. And it was German food, and it was delicious. We go over there afterwards. We hear the Asia album, and then oh shoot! How did I forget his name? I was just bragging about how I only remember the first person's name. Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. Donald Fagen basically gets up and say, okay, well, we were talking to a reporter earlier today, and the reporter was asking us, why aren't you playing the Royal Scam in Boston? And we didn't want to disappoint. So then they played the Royal Scam too. Oh my God.
I bet that was excellent, man.
We got 2 albums for one show, one night only. It was amazing.
Oh, dude, I bet that was awesome.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I love that opening guitar riff on "Don't Take Me Alive." That's such a great deep song, man.
It's a fantastic song, and the thing that is both wonderful and frustrating about Steely Dan, and I mentioned this to people before, is that for some reason they always go into like these personal stories that you know nothing about.
Right. Well, and I read some interviews with them about what they were doing, and he was just taking stuff out of shit he saw in the news. And because the whole juxtaposition of this kind of happy music, this upbeat, up tempo, some of it's real up tempo jazzy stuff with these like dark lyrics, man, makes for a fascinating kind of combination. And I noticed like Fleetwood Mac, a lot of their shits, especially with the Stevie Nicks and that whole 3-album deal, when they were going through their shit and all fucking each other and shit, you can hear that tension, and the lyrics are so dark. The Gold Dust Woman, that's a great song.
Yeah. I think it was John Mulaney who said that Rumors was a movie. It was an album about people cheating on each other for people cheating on each other.
Yeah, exactly. That's nice. That was a great way to say that. We're kind of getting towards the end of the deal here. We got a couple minutes, so I've got some more questions. All right, what about do you have any scars, tattoos, piercings you want to talk about?
No piercings, no tattoos. The thing is that I've always felt that plain skin never goes out of fashion, which is fortunate. So the thing is that if I get,
trust me, when you get old, you'll be glad you didn't do it, man.
yeah, because then I see older people with tattoos and it's all green and faded, and I'm just like, ugh, that does not look good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but no. And so I try not to hold it against people who get tattoos, but I can't help but feel that it's short-sighted.
Yeah. Well, I remember when it was a big fad in the 90s. I told my wife, I said, man, I need to get a laser tattoo removal, machine, because in 15 years, all these women are going to want to take these tramp stamps off their backs and shit. You know what I'm saying? And then if they get older, it's like start sagging and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, not pretty. You never want to see a spider web. Dripping and shit.
Oh man. But as far as scars go, the only one that really comes to mind is when I was a lot younger. I'm going down a bicycle, and I'm on one of those bicycles where it's back pedal action for the brake.
Right.
And so if you go down a real fast hill, you cannot back pedal, and if you try to, it will run right into you. And that happened to me once, runs right into my shin. And so I have to walk all the way home, and some neighbors pass by in their car and they're like, do you want to ride home? And I'm like, no, because I didn't want to bleed in their car. Yeah. That was my only thought. I'm like, I don't want to get blood all over their nice car.
But you still got a scar from that?
I probably do. I don't look at the back of my shin too often, but yeah.
All right. So let's see. Winding around. All right. Here's some questions. We're gonna do the pivot questions in a second. So in 40 years, what do you think people will be nostalgic for?
Like what they'll be nostalgic for from today?
Yeah.
I know what I'll be nostalgic for, the 2016 election. I'll be like, that was the greatest election in American history, bar none.
We are living in interesting times,
Yeah, the old Chinese curse.
Indeed, man. Let's see. What's the most useless talent you have?
The most useless talent I have. thing is that I don't really practice many useless talents because, as I said, the whole purpose of practicing things is to get better.
Okay.
As a person, so I'm trying to think. I honestly don't know.
If you could go back,
wait, I know.
Go ahead.
I memorized for a long time. I memorized the powers of 2. So, if you're familiar with mathematical powers, it's basically 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 4 = 8, 8 + 8 = 16, and so on. And so, for the longest time, I started memorizing those powers.
Right.
And so I know 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, 8192, 16,384, 32,768, 65,536, 131,072, 262,144, 524,288, 1 million. I forget it. 1 million.
That's impressive, man.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly the kind of thing I was talking about too. If you could go back in time and spend a week with any person, who would you spend it with and why?
I've always been fascinated by the actor who. Oh crap! What's his name? Hold on. He was the actor who played Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Sir Alec Guinness. Yes,
Alec Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very curious to meet him in real life.
Nifty.
I think he would be fascinating.
Yeah, I think he passed away. In the 80s?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. It's he was a very talented actor. That character was fantastic. He did such a good job. I mean, he's part of the reason that movie was so good. You know, he lifted that up. And Peter Cushing did too, I thought. Let's see. All right, so we're going to go. All right, so these are what's called the pivot questions. Actually, it's named after a dude named Bernard Pivot, a French writer, and James Lipton, who did a show called the Inside the Actor Studio, would always ask these 10 questions. Kind of like what's the first thing that comes into your head thing. All right, you ready? Little rapid fire here. All right. So what's your favorite word?
Onomatopoeia.
Okay. What's your least favorite word? Good answer.
Socialism.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? Oh wow.
Twilight hours.
What turns you off?
Socialism.
I'm seeing a theme here. What's your favorite curse word?
Oh shoot, I know this. Fuckwit.
Nice. What sound or noise do you love?
Can you repeat that?
What sound or noise do you love?
See, it's funny because I know that the next question is going to be what sound or noise do you hate? And
right.
I can think of a lot of those, but I can't think of any noises that I love in particular.
Okay, what noise do you hate?
Squeaky chairs.
Is my chair squeaking, man? Is it bad?
No. I'm just thinking about. I have a lot of experience with squeaky chairs, and it's very unfortunate. So one of the things that I did when I was learning how to take control of my life is how to oil chairs properly. So this one does not squeak at all.
All right. So Duck Dog and Dante both say that Alec Guinness passed away in 2000.
Wow.
So.
Let's
see. All right. So
noise that I love. Starting a car engine.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
That thing.
What profession would you Other than your own, would you like to attempt? There you go. That's how you say that.
Profession other than my own that I'd like to attempt. I would like. I wish that I could be a comic book writer. I wish I could write comic books.
Sweet. Well, what profession would you not like?
Dictator.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I want to come up with something more creative than all the socialists went to hell.
I'll take that one, man. I like that.
Okay.
You're only among friends here, man. That's right. All right. So, all right, chat. Queue up your stuff. Queue up your questions, okay? And put some, at least a couple of our. So, thoughts on Wing Commander? I've seen some questions pop in.
Wing Commander, is that the video game?
I don't know. I don't know what Mr. Scott means. All right. Well, Duck Dog wants to know: is Jean Shaheen still breathing?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
She used to be the governor of New Hampshire, but she was kind of using it to get a Senate seat, and she's an asshole. She's a real dirtbag.
Do you collect anything that would be considered strange? Becca asks.
Let's see. I collect stuffed animals.
Sweet.
Yeah, lots of stuff. I have a whole collection full of them.
Sweet. Let's see. Any more? Come on, shoot them questions at me. I saw some question marks. Let's see. But we don't know about what was that? Wing Commander.
Wing Commander. Looks a lot like Fury 3. There's this old Microsoft game called Fury 3. It was a 3-dimensional platformer. You'd be in a spaceship, you'd be flying around, and you'd aim up and down and to the sides, and you'd shoot at stuff.
Oh, okay. So it was it might have been one of those old I can't think of the damn word. Arcade games, right?
Yeah, this looks like an arcade game, but if it's anything like Fury 3, then I would say it's probably a good game because Fury 3 was awesome. It was metal.
Doug Dog says she makes Maggie Hassan look squeaky clean.
Yeah, Jean Shaheen is like the she's like New Hampshire's Hillary Clinton.
All right, so Brian Walters wants to know: are your games really rigged?
Well, it doesn't matter what I say, frankly, because if I say no, they're not, because they're obviously not. They're going to say, no, you're a liar.
It's the Kobayashi Maru of questions for Jack. Yes.
You're lying.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll just keep an eye out for any question marks that pop up. Let me see, make sure Twitch and D Live, any questions from them? No. But say hi to everybody at Twitch and D Live and Facebook, even Facebook. Hey. But I can't see I don't think there's a chat on the Facebook thing. So, but
hello to Twitch, D Live, and Facebook.
Hey, cool. I know, man. It's just the miracles that abound.
I hope that D-Live. I hope that D-Live takes off. I hope that they add video features, because as soon as YouTube has a valid competitor that actually stands up to it in terms of user interface, a lot of people are going to migrate there.
Yeah, all Pornhub has to do is just come up with a new interface, man. And call it, People Hub or whatever, something quippy.
I don't know if Pornhub could do it though, because it will always have the stigma of being a porn website, and the fact is that. And I haven't been on it a lot, but what I've noticed is it kind of
reminds me of YouTube as to how the videos, you know what I'm saying? There's some kind of framework there that looks like it's the same kind of shit. But anyhow, we're going way off the topic there.
That's fine.
What's your favorite breakfast meal?
There's a diner around my parts. There are a few diners actually, but it's called Mary Ann's, and it's kind of like the Tarantino style diner, and they do a dish called the Big Boy Breakfast.
That's right.
And it's two large pancakes, side of hash browns, three eggs, I think, a couple slices of bacon, couple breakfast sausages, and 2 slices of sourdough toast.
Holy shit! You can go chop down a forest after that. You know, that sounds like a good breakfast there, bro.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we're at the point of where we're back at YouTube. So who would you say is a criminally undersubscribed YouTuber that you interact with, or that you watch, or somebody?
Hold on, just a second. Sorry about that. Criminally undersubbed YouTuber. Hold on. Well, obviously I like Minions of the Zoo and Polydub. Both of them are places that I go to all the time. But I'm looking for someone who's a little bit more out in left field. How big is Viva Frey right now?
Oh, I like him, man. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I was subscribed to him a long time ago, back when he had far fewer subscribers, though he's getting pretty big now, 228,000.
Yeah. I joined Lauren Chen, Roaming Millennials channel, when she had like 50, it was in the 50s, almost 60s. You know, you feel like, yeah, man, I'm on the cutting edge now. Look at where she went. Because I've got great taste. It's all about me. Oh my God. Stop it.
No, I love channels like that. Like one of the big animated story time channels, the Odd Ones Out. I was back on him when he had 20,000 subscribers, and he's got over 10 million now. So it feels good to be on the bottom floor.
Yeah, exactly. So who's the YouTuber that you think is way overhyped, and you don't get it?
Aside from BreadTube, let's see. I don't like. Well, it's kind of passe to say that the blood sports channels were overhyped. Kind of passe to say Keemstar is overhyped. I'm trying to think of
Keemstar, you know.
And let's see, there are also the little kiddie shows with the animated crap that, get 1 billion views and you have no idea why, because it's garbage. And then there are the makeup channels, and those get millions of views. Ladies, I'm sorry, but if you're old enough to be putting on makeup that often that you need to watch videos, you probably should know everything you need to know by now.
No doubt. I did want to point out, everybody, I didn't even say this earlier, I'm so sorry. The Discord link is good, and it'll expire in about 40 minutes. So if you want to hop in the server, do it. Remember, it is the Chads, also known as the Capitol Hill Autonomous Discord Zone, and I'm your warlord. So just remember that shit. All right? And if you need me to fuck somebody up, I can do that. Right? I'll just kick them out of my server. Because I'm such a badass. So, all right. So let's talk about you. What do you want to do with your channel coming up?
Honestly, the only big thing that I can think of that really differs from what I've been doing in general, aside from the poetry videos and more of the Quippers United stream, the only thing I can think of is I've been wanting to do special Quippers United streams for people who are outside the regular time slot. Because there are a lot of people who either due to work restrictions or living in places like Europe who've been interested in doing the show, but they haven't had the opportunity because it's like 4 a.m. where they live. And, so I am actually doing a show like that next week where I'm going to be inviting European people. So I'm going to have Badger Man on and hopefully Irate Alex.
Sweet. So what is there a day, a specific day and time that we need to look out for that?
Yeah, that's going to be next Thursday, the 18th.
Okay.
Or this Thursday.
What time?
It's going to be, hold on, I have it written down. I wasn't expecting to have to shill, unfortunately.
No, that's kind of the point. I want to turn people onto you.
If East Coast time, it's going to be 11 a.m. So West Coast time, that would be 8 a.m. And if you're in England, that would be 4 p.m.
So it'll be a great morning show for the people on the West Coast.
Absolutely.
Wake up, drink some coffee, drive to work, shit, listen to that. Sounds fun to me, man.
Yeah, I got to book a few more slots, though, but I've got Irate Alex, if he can do it. Unfortunately, he's got some health problems that might get in the way. Badger Man and Peter Almond. Yeah,
his missus might do it. Vanilla Bear, she's cool.
Oh, if Vanilla Bear is still listening and you want to be on the show, I would love to have you. Yeah. I mean, obviously.
Hit her up. She'd love it. She'd love to hear from you. She's my buddy. Absolutely. Yeah, it's like when I first came out on the on YouTube, they were the first people to say, "Hey, man, want to stream?" And I said embarrassing shit, and I haven't stopped.
One more thing I wanted to, before you ask the next question, one more thing that I would like to do at some point in the future. There's a program called Live 2D, and what you can do is you can create two-dimensional models that move along with facial recognition software. And so I would at some point like to create some sort of character that I can do for any sort of maybe a commentary kind of related thing, talk show related thing. So that way I can actually have a character on screen with a moving face that people can sort of watch.
Yeah, they call those puppets.
Yeah.
Technically. So yeah, that sounds fun, man. I would like to look at doing something like that, to be honest with you.
Honestly, I was looking.
I just can't afford $50 a month for Premiere.
Well, no, you don't do Live 2D is free, and you can if you're willing to put in the time. It's not that difficult to learn because a lot of it is just click and drag and testing. So if you're willing to put the time into it, you can definitely learn it. I'll tell you what. I'll send you a link to the website after this show, but. Because I was thinking, I was like, your avatar would probably be perfect for something like that.
Yeah, my little production. I don't know what to call it, emblem badge. That's at the beginning and the end. That was done by somebody on an iPhone, and so that animation, it's that image right there. So yeah, man. Spinal tap taparoo. The God of Water asks, orange juice or apple juice, Jack?
It depends on the time, because overall I think orange juice is better. It's more flavorful, or it's got a better flavor to it, but it also gives me heartburn. So sometimes apple juice works instead, but overall I think that orange juice tastes better. Nice.
And we're literally, we're kind of at the end of the line here. Usually, the tradition is to share your channel. People, I've got links to Jack's YouTube and to his Twitter. I recommend right now You sub into that shit and watch his show. All right. So when is Quippers United? Is it every night now? Besides
no.
Okay. What do you do? What's
I
the
only do
schedule.
I do one show a week every Tuesday night from 11:30 EST. It usually runs about 2 hours. So 11:30 EST, that would be 8:30 on the coast.
And that's fun too, people. Yeah. Just
Absolutely. And
if you get invited though, don't play with Terry. Terry he cheats.
And of course I rig the games.
Yeah. It's very fun stuff. From
Yes.
the people that brought you, you don't know Jack, which I think is apropos. So you don't own that channel, right?
I do not own. I have no rights to Jackbox games at all. I just use the games to do the show. I used to call it Jackbox Tonight, but then I realized that further down the line I might run into copyright issues, and I didn't want to pull a bearing, so I decided to change the name.
But it's still a smart mnemonic device, I think. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff.
Credit where it's due. By the way, I didn't come up with that name. It was Tartan Rose.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Tartan Rose. Well, with that in mind, man, I'm at the end of my questions. I have none left to give. So people, I talk about my stuff for a wee bit. So I kind of teased it earlier, but this show is now going to spin off into something different, into a different show. I don't know if I'll be able to start it in July or August. I'll just have to. I want to plan it out somewhere. We don't have to learn as we go. I'd like to have some kind of good structure there. But Thursday, Big Fat Brian and I are going to be looking at this series called The Pharmacist. It's about it's 4 hours on Netflix, dealing with this. It's a documentary about this pharmacist who was addicted to drugs, and I tell you, I'm from people that I know that have had similar experiences. There's some fucked up stuff that can happen. So that's going to be interesting too. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't want to tease that, unrealistically. And of course, the Creem stream every Friday night. I think I'm going to take us out of lockdown and use some of those old sets that we've been using, and hopefully I won't get kicked off of YouTube again. So, well, shit, Jack, man. Without any further, I guess let's say goodbye and get out of here, man. You ready?
Absolutely.
Because I think aren't Weibo and Polly going to be streaming soon? And Sir Adamantine and Messiah of Keck also got a thing they're doing in about 15 minutes.
Probably. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think they're doing. I think Weibo and Polly have their stream today.
Neat. All right, well, folks, on that note, we're going to scoot, and thanks everybody for coming. It's been awesome. Jack, thank you so much, man. It was a huge favor, and it was an honor to do the 100th show with you. It was. Go ahead.
It was an honor to be your 100th guest.
Well, and what I love about stuff like this is that people I don't know as well as I'd like to. I feel like there's some kindred stuff between us, and I think that there's going to be more with this relationship as time marches on.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate you taking your time out to help me out. Ismail, keep the chat right, okay? We're scooting out though, and I'll see you next week. Duck Dog, thanks for coming. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. You make this shit worth doing. You know me, man. It ain't about anything else but doing it, right? Because I ain't making jack shit off of this monetarily. This is a labor of love, and I love all of y'all for loving me. Have a great one. And on that note, say goodbye, Jack. We're out.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Every week on Friday,
Midnight Eastern.
the Creem stream, the weekly world news for YouTube. Sundays, 5 p.m. Eastern, the ice cream interviews. Fascinating people. Fascinating people. Thursdays,
9 p.m. Eastern.
hot takes with the Butter Baron. Watching horrible shit so you don't have to. Subscribe to Irate Prostate now.
And only you true believers stick around for this part. Take care, y'all.